I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Nintendo did it. They finally jumped the shark. Honestly, I am surprised because I never thought Nintendo would touch this one game in particular. You know, we've had various remasters of a lot of the great titles of the past, the most famous titles of the past, including this very game, Ocarina. But to go so far as to completely reimagine the game and build a new game from the ground up as a sort of spiritual successor, if you will, I never thought Nintendo would, and they certainly wouldn't under the previous president, Satoru Iwata. This most recent announcement from Nintendo, that most recent Nintendo Direct, inspired me to reflect on the past couple decades in video gaming and reflect on my own experiences, as well as observing the broader culture of how gaming has changed so significantly, even just in the past 10 years. A brief historical background on myself. I mean, I grew up with all the Nintendo stuff. I had an NES, I had a Super Nintendo. Granted, I'm not an elder millennial. I wasn't a kid experiencing that as those titles came out, but I am the youngest of four siblings. Or I have four siblings, I'm the youngest. And I got to experience those consoles through them, in a sense. I'd say the GameCube and PS2 were my first consoles that were purchased for me. The GameCube, I vividly remember going to our Toys R Us in our city back when that was still around, and picking up a GameCube and a copy of Metroid Prime on my birthday. It was a really good memory with my dad. The PS2, my brother and I split the cost on one of those. That's as far as my console experience goes, but I grew up with the PC platform as well, thanks to my older brother, enjoying a lot of the classic FPS titles. Half-Life, Duke Nukem, Doom 2. We played a ton of Doom WODs. Still do recently I was actually exploring some newer Doom WODs. Anyway, there is a marked decline, just like in every other field of pop culture and entertainment, even more so you might say in video games, how brief of a time period the gaming golden age really took place. I hear a lot of people say it's like, 1995 to 07 or 08 maybe. I would say, just like many things in our entertainment culture, 2015-16 to present is vastly different than anything that came before it. I remember 2015, that's when CD Projekt Red released The Witcher 3, and everybody went bonkers over that title. I played like 40 some hours of it. Can't remember if I finished it, to be honest. It's been over 10 years at this point. That was the last time I remember seeing those graphics for the first time and thinking, it's not going to get any better than this. Or at the very least, I'm not going to be impressed by anything like past this point, this mark in time. But since then, we've had all of the social issues, the cultural war issues have really infected that space. Really, it's about taking away one of the last vestiges of a male-only space, if you want to break it down to its most fundamentals. The fundamental cause of the issue is taking over that space and routing out any of their undesirables. Gaming, for the longest time, and it still is to this day, probably the best cope you can have as far as offering an alternative achievement track and an alternative goal system than what is offered to most males in their real lives. I don't get the opportunity to game as much as I used to. Unfortunately, the peak of my hours put into both online multiplayer games and console games are definitely in college, and now my real life has sort of invaded that time. One of the under-discussed aspects of the decline of the industry from an interior perspective inside the business, I could say, or I'm outside of the business, I don't work within video games, but observing the business, I just think back to there was a time when every couple years you would get a classic title. You would get a new Final Fantasy if you're into Japanese games, and it would be amazing. And now, they're spaced out every 10 years. If you look at the greatest games being released year over year, a new genre-defining title was dropped every year of the 90s and early 2000s, and that just doesn't happen anymore. The dev cycle has exponentially grown, and a lot of these studios, Rockstar in particular, I know they've caught a lot of heat recently for GTA 6. I believe the Ocarina of Time remake to be a genuine inflection point in the mainstream AAA gaming culture, as it's really the last high-profile title to get a remake of such scale. Like the most recent one would probably be Final Fantasy VII for Squaresoft / Square Enix and Sony. But after the Ocarina of Time remake, is there really any other games that can be remade? I think we're sort of at the end of the line. So where do we go from here? Well, it all needs to collapse. And the unfortunate thing is, I don't know how that could occur, because the Ocarina of Time remake is going to sell a bajillion copies, I'm sure, and it's going to receive stunning reviews, and it's just like the Final Fantasy VII remake. People gobble up these remakes every day, and a part of it is because the gaming audience is just so much larger than it once was. The pool of people you're drawing from have lower quality, diminished tastes than those of the past. It's just the result of it not being a more niche interest anymore. And, you could argue it hasn't been that, or at least these broad spectrum titles. I'm not talking about tactical shooters or various strategy games, grand strategy games, but these mainstream Nintendo titles, for sure, they're drawing upon a much bigger base than they were in the past. So the scrutiny is not there. So where do we go from here? Well, there is a almost infinite backlog of games from the past that are untapped, and I know it's become popular over the past couple of years to reach back into the past. We've got people building PCs exclusively for emulation, older and even more retro consoles now, like the PS3, which is crazy to say, but time has passed. The problem is with a lot of males is we live in small apartments and we can't afford anything, and what fits well in a small space and is affordable? Video games. At least if you're not blowing a ton of money on microtransactions or gacha or any of that slop, God forbid. As it stands, I think that the industry is just going to continue to snowball. It's going to continue to grow. In the absence of hardware limitations, or I guess not hardware limitations, what I'm referring to is the price of certain hardware. As long as the majority of the market isn't getting priced out, it will certainly outpace the growth of more traditional media like movies, and it already has, in fact, in terms of revenue. Me personally, I don't own a Nintendo Switch 2. I own a Switch. I got one of those back in 2017 to play Mario Odyssey, and I dabbled in Breath of the Wild. It just didn't hold my interest. An open world Zelda is just something I couldn't get into. Maybe that's just my boomer side speaking. As for me, I think I'll just continue to grind away Europa Universalis 4 and Age of Empires 2. Peace out.